The 2020 Major League Baseball season is officially underway. We should be starting ball July 23rd or 24th. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to update you guys on the best teams in baseball by ranking. We're going to start with the worst team all the way to the best. Is it going to be the Astros? Is it going to be the Yankees? Is it going to be the Dodgers? Make sure you guys let me know in the comment section down below who you think is going to win the World Series this year. There will be an asterisk because, again, 60 games, it's a really weird time in the world right now, but we can still make the video. I'm super excited. And without further ado, let's start talking baseball. I think it might be a little bit easier to follow along with this video if I go by group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the teams that have no chance to win the 2020 World Series. So it should speed up the video a little bit. Starting off with the worst team, the Tigers. Then you have the Orioles, the Royals, the Marlins, the Mariners, the Giants, the Rockies, the Blue Jays, and the Pirates. All of these teams have a 200-to-1 or more chance of winning the World Series according to Westgate out in Las Vegas. So again, guys, I'm trying to give you guys the rankings as well as the World Series odds if you guys are into that. So again, the teams that have no chance are what I just said and what's on the screen right now. They don't have enough talent, I'm sorry to say. So now that we got a good chunk of the league out the way, we don't have to waste our time on them. We can start talking about teams that will probably be playoff teams. If not, they'll be fringe playoff teams. Starting off with the 21st best ranked team going into 2020, according to Westgate. I'll give you guys my opinion in just a second. The Rangers, they have an 80-to-1 odds of winning the World Series. They've added Corey Kluber, and on top of that, they were able to acquire more talent via starting pitchers in the offseason. So I think that they are a much better team. It's crazy that they only have an 80-to-1 odds. I think Joey Gallo is going to show up yet again. He was a monster when he was healthy back in 2019. So when you factor in that offense with the new pitching, maybe their bullpen is a little bit suspect. The Rangers are pretty good, but I don't think they're better than the Arizona Diamondbacks. And according to Westgate, they agree with me. The Diamondbacks picked up so much talent in the offseason. They grabbed Madison Bumgarner. They got Cole Calhoun to be their right fielder, and they also picked up Starling Marte. So when you add all of those guys into the starting lineup with Eduardo Escobar and Ketel Marte, who broke out, Carson Kelly has proven to be a big-time hitter at the catcher spot. Also, Luke Weaver, he showed some promise as well. Some would argue that they won the Paul Goldschmidt trade. So I think at this point they are better overall than the Texas Rangers, but considering the Rangers are at an 80-to-1 odds and the Diamondbacks are at a 50-to-1, it's kind of close. So I wouldn't say the Diamondbacks are leaps and bounds better than the Rangers, but in my opinion, they are cracking the top 20 just ahead of the Rangers. The Brewers and the Red Sox are tied neck and neck as a couple teams that have a 40-to-1 chance of winning the World Series. But in my opinion, I think that the Brewers are a little bit worse than the Red Sox. We'll talk about them in just a second. But the Brewers, I mean, they're pretty much the exact opposite of the Diamondbacks. They lost a bunch of guys. They lost Mike Moustakas. They lost Yasmani Grandal, who was probably a top 3 catcher in all of baseball. I just don't think that signing the guys that they did make them, like, they got worse. That's all I can really say. So according to my calculations and Westgate putting them at 19 just ahead of the Diamondbacks, it makes sense because they have Yelich, they have a bunch of different dudes that can carry them, but they're not better than the Red Sox. Let's just get that out there right now. And I say the Red Sox are better because they're still going to have a pretty decent lineup. They don't have Mookie Betts anymore, but they got Alex Verdugo, who is a couple steps below Mookie Betts, but he's not completely terrible. I'm hoping that Andrew Benintendi can have a comeback season. They still have Christian Vasquez, who is a pretty good catcher. They have JD Martinez. They have Rafael Devers. All of the guys, Xander Bogaerts even. I mean, he's become a top 5, probably even a top 3 shortstop in the entire game. Their bullpen is a little bit suspect. Ryan Brazier, I think that he's going to have to come back as well. Brandon Workman had a great season. They have a couple guys that are going to be good. And also, if Eduardo Rodriguez can duplicate what he did last season, I think the Red Sox, they can be better than the Brewers, but it's going to be tough. So according to Westgate out in Las Vegas, 4 different teams are tied for pretty much being the 17th to 14th best team in Major League Baseball with a 30-to-1 odds of winning the World Series. We have the Phillies, the Cardinals, the White Sox, and the Padres. So who do we think is the best between the 4 of those? Let's talk about it. Coming in as the 17th best team going into 2020, I have the St. Louis Cardinals. Like I said before, they have a 30-to-1 chance of winning the World Series, so you could pretty much interchange any of the next 4 teams. But I think losing Marcell Ozuna is going to be a big hit for that squad, and really that's it. They didn't add too many pieces. Tommy Edman, he showed that he can be a pretty productive player. If Harrison Bader does not return back to normal, I just don't really see the Cardinals being a huge threat offensively, but again, their pitchers are going to get the job done. And if Carlos Martinez can have a pretty special season, like, he's capable of it. He has the stuff to be a really good starting pitcher, if not an elite closing pitcher. They can do it. And Jordan Hicks, he's special as well. I just don't think that they're better than the White Sox or the Padres or the Phillies. This might be the biggest hot take so far in the video, but I will be ranking the White Sox ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, hear me out. If we're talking about 2019, obviously the White Sox, they're nowhere near the St. Louis Cardinals, but they've done their research, they have done their job in terms of acquiring talent. Also, they have prospects that can come up and make a difference. Luis Robert, he's going to be a stud. They added guys like Dallas Keuchel, Gio Gonzalez, so many different, Yasmani Grandal. They also traded for a couple different guys. I think that the White Sox are going to be sneaky scary because they already had Yoan Moncada who broke out. They have Jose Abreu. They have guys that can get the job done. Their bullpen is going to be slightly questionable, which is really their only downside, but if Michael Kopech can come back healthy and if Lucas Giolito can just even be half of the guy that he was in 2019, the White Sox will be better than the Cardinals, just in terms of talent. Coming in at the 15th spot with, again, a 30-1 odds of winning the World Series, the San Diego Padres. I think they have one of the most fun rosters in all of baseball and maybe the most fun in the National League, maybe aside from the Dodgers, because how can you argue Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, and Cody Bellinger? I can't wait to see that squad in person, but staying with the Padres, Fernando Tatis, he's going to come back healthy. You have new incomers like Tommy Pham, who has been very underrated over the last 6 to maybe 5 seasons. Manny Machado can come back. Manny Machado is primed to have a bounce back season because his career can really be described as roller coaster. He has a great season, then not so much. Great season, not so much. And he's coming off a not so great season, so I'm expecting him to have a comeback year. Chris Paddock has shown that he can really carry a starting rotation. Garrett Richards, that's going to be my question mark. If Garrett Richards can be 80% of what he was with the Angels, they're going to be really good. They have a great bullpen with Drew Pomeranz, the newest addition, Kirby Yates, Craig Stammen. I really like them. And also, I think they just acquired Emilio Pagan as well. The Padres, watch out for them. The Phillies are my 14th best team going into the 2020 season. And again, guys, it's a toss-up between the Phillies and the other 3 teams that we just mentioned. They're all ranked at a 30-1 odds according to Las Vegas. I'm not trying to be biased because I know a lot of you guys know my ties to Bryce Harper, a Las Vegas kid. I've interviewed him before. We talk on stream. It's just a good dynamic, but I promise you, I'm not going to put the Phillies over teams like the Indians or the Yankees or teams that just are physically better than them. Now, if we take a look at their roster, they're going to be a whole lot better just based off the newest additions. They've signed Didi Gregorius. They got Zach Wheeler. Those are studs. I think Wheeler is definitely underappreciated. He didn't get the best results in 2019, I can tell you that, because he was on my fantasy team, but I think Didi, he is a step in the right direction at the shortstop position. If they can get guys back healthy like Sir Anthony Dominguez and Pat Neshek and David Robertson, they were depleted. They were up there with the Yankees as teams that were most decimated by the injury bug. So look for the Phillies to have a really good 2019, but one thing I will say is I think that they're going to miss Corey Dickerson. He raked for them. And also, I have to throw this out here, Rhys Hoskins cannot hit under 200 for an entire half. That just can't happen. So Aaron Nola is going to do his job. Zach Wheeler is going to be pretty good. Jake Arrieta might bounce back, but Rhys Hoskins, that dude cannot hit 180 anymore. According to Westgate, the Indians have a 25-1 odds of winning the 2020 World Series, which puts them at the number 13 spot. I don't know if I would put them behind the Angels, but that's today's video. The Angels are in fact better than the Indians according to the rankings and the odds. Now let me go ahead and break down the Indians real quick. They traded their ace, Corey Kluber, for a guy that was one of the worst hitters in baseball. Now, Delino DeShields seems like a great guy, but he can't really hit. And also, the prize of that trade was Emmanuel Clase. He was just banned for 80 games because he got caught using PEDs. The season's only 60 games, so we pretty much gave away Corey Kluber for nothing. And on top of that, Carlos Carrasco might sit out the season because he has an underlying health condition. He just beat leukemia, so I would fault him 0 if he actually sat out, but it's just one of those things that the lineup is really good. I think Franmil Reyes was still an excellent addition. Lindor is going to be ready to make his money because this is kind of his contract season. I don't know if they're better than the Angels. Realistically, the Angels' rotation is not that great, but that lineup, good God. If you're asking me why Las Vegas ranks the Angels ahead of the Indians, all I really have to say is one word: health. The Angels might finally be healthy going into a season because they've had so much time to get healthy and rehabilitate. So the starting rotation, it could very well feature Shohei Ohtani, a healthy Andrew Heaney, all the other guys that they signed. I don't think that Dylan Bundy is going to make or break their success, but he's pretty solid as well. But when you factor in that lineup, Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, Pujols is still decent at the very least. Andrelton Simmons, I'm expecting him to come back because he's going to be healthy. We've seen Tommy Stella breakout. David Fletcher, Brian Goodwin is pretty good. I like the Angels. I think that they're going to be good. Their bullpen is a little bit suspect, led by Hansel Robles, who was electric to end the 2019 season. But according to Las Vegas and me, the Angels and their 20-1 odds might just be slightly ahead of the Indians. Now, I will say the Angels would have been my clear favorite team over the Indians if the trade for Jock Peterson and Ross Stripling actually went through. I still can't believe they rejected and reneged that trade. What are they thinking? They traded a guy that was not going to get much playing time for Jock Peterson and Stripling. They would have been so much better, but instead they said, nah, we're not going to do it anymore. So the Angels, they might have been a top 10, maybe even top 8 team if that trade had gone through. So I'm sorry to bring it up one more time, Angels fans. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. The next couple teams are also sharing a 20-1 odds of winning the World Series, just like the Angels, but I think that Vegas has it right at this moment. Maybe the Cubs, who we'll talk about, they're the 9th ranked team, just ahead of the Reds and the Athletics. We'll talk about them in just a second, but I think they got it right. The Reds, we'll talk about them right now at the 11th spot. The biggest thing about the Reds is the fact that they signed Nick Castellanos. What can't he not do? He can't play defense. What is a new rule going into 2020? The universal DH. So they just swindled the entire league for one of the best designated hitters in baseball. When you combine that with their already pretty good lineup and their starting rotation, I think they're going to be good. Their bullpen is suspect. Michael Lorenzen, Amir Garrett, they're pretty decent. Raisel Iglesias, he was shaky last year. But considering they already have Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, they acquired Trevor Bauer and signed Mike Moustakas, I mean, the sky is the limit for the Reds. They could be one of the sneakiest teams in baseball and end up being a top 3 team once it's all said and done. That's how good their roster is right now. I don't know how the Athletics continue to do it, but they are making my top 10 at a 20-1 odds to win the 2020 World Series. You can't deny Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, Ramon Laureano, Jesus Luzardo is going to come in and be a stud as a rookie pitcher. I believe in the A's. Now, I don't know if they're going to win the American League West because the Astros, unfortunately, they got off with a slap on the wrist, and they're still stacked for the 2020 season. We will talk about them later on in the video, but the A's, considering they haven't really done much in the offseason and they never really do, they're just great at picking up a few pieces, making some decent trades, and having weird talent end up being pretty good. So yeah, they're my number 10 team, and there's not really much to say about them. They're just always really good. Actually, one more thing about the A's. If they call up Jorge Mateo to play second base, I think they're going to be good. I haven't made a bold prediction since I said Trevor Story was going to be a star, but I'm thinking Jorge Mateo could be the next Brian Roberts, just without the steroids. The final team with a 20-1 odds of winning the World Series is the Chicago Cubs, and I'm going to say this right now. Between Indians fans and Cubs fans, we should be a little bit nervous because as of today, I believe the transactions are not frozen anymore, so you can extend your star players. We better sign or extend Lindor and Chris Bryant ASAP, otherwise our teams could be looking very different in the next couple seasons. But luckily for the Cubs, they do in fact get to keep Chris Bryant and all of their other stars. Yu Darvish performed at an elite level in the second half of 2019, so all you really need is a decent performance from Quintana, from John Lester, from Yu Darvish. That offense is going to be scary good, and they can carry a squad, no doubt. Unless Craig Kimbrell comes in and blows like 6 or 7 leads like he did last season, hopefully he can go back to Atlanta Braves version because he was scary bad. I would say Vegas ranking the Nationals as the 8th best team could be a little bit controversial, but considering they lost Anthony Rendon, it kind of makes sense, right? Now, Juan Soto and Max Scherzer and all the other guys, they're still going to be there. But what else is there really to say about the Nationals? Not really much happened. They signed guys like Eric Thames and Starlin Castro, so I think maybe combine those guys guys can somewhat resemble a lesser version of Anthony Rendon. But if Carter Kieboom can come up, their top prospect, and do some damage, that's really good. And their rotation with Strasburg, Max Scherzer, and Patrick Corbin, along with Joe Ross and Anibal Sanchez, that's really good. They're a solid 8 squad. All right, everyone, we are getting down to the final 7 teams. Now, I will say 7 through 4, they're all ranked at 16-1 odds of winning the chip according to Las Vegas. So let's go ahead and rank them right now. We have the Twins, the Rays, we have the Mets, and the Braves, all at 16-1. So who is the best and who is the worst out of those 4 squads? I'm going to put the Tampa Bay Rays at the number 7 spot simply because their pitching is going to be so good. But I don't really understand the Hunter Renfroe for Tommy Pham trade. Don't get me wrong, Renfroe is pretty good. He has a strong arm. He strikes out a lot, and he's just not really the same caliber player as Tommy Pham, so I don't like that. They still have Brandon Lau, Austin Meadows, Yandy Diaz. They have a couple good hitters, but aside from that, their pitching is going to have to really carry them with Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, and Tyler Glasnow, with their bullpen of Jose Alvarado and Diego Castillo. Just a bunch of different guys, and they got rid of Emilio Pagan. They gave him to the A's, so I think they took a step back, in my opinion. Just behind the Minnesota Twins, who, my gosh, their lineup is legendary. I mean, considering the Minnesota Twins have guys like Jake Odorizzi and Jose Barrios, and then you add Kenta Maeda to that mix, that's not too bad. What is going to be great about the Twins is this lineup. Max Kepler, Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, Josh Donaldson, Eddie Rosario, Mitch Garver, Luis Arias, Miguel Sano, and Byron Buxton. I mean, that is legendary stuff when Eddie Rosario and Mitch Garver are your number 5 and 6 hitters with Miguel Sano at the 8 spot. That's ridiculous. And realistically, as good as the Twins are, I just don't think that they're better in terms of being able to be ranked above the Atlanta Braves. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Braves at the number 5 spot, just behind the New York Mets. We'll talk about them in just a second. But if I take a look at their lineup with Acuna and Albies and Freeman and their newest addition, Marcell Ozuna, I really like the additions that they made. Now, the only thing is, we're going to have to wait and see if Mike Soroka has a duplicated 2020 season, because we all know he was really good, but the per-9s, they were a little bit shaky because he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. Everyone loves strikeouts, so they try and poo-poo Mike Soroka. They do have Cole Hamels, they have Max Fried, they have Mike Fultonewicz, I never know how to say his name, and also King Felix was great in spring training. Now, no promises that Felix Hernandez is going to return back to King Felix, but if we take a look at everything, I think that we can all kind of universally agree that even though the Braves are special and really good, the Mets, they have a slight advantage, and let me tell you why. Unfortunately for the Mets, Noah Syndergaard is going to be out for the entire year, but luckily for them, they still have Jacob deGrom, who is a back-to-back Cy Young winner. They have Marcus Stroman and Steven Matz, along with Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha. They're not going to be forced to throw 200 innings, so they should be able to give you a couple games, each of them. But their lineup is special, with Brandon Nimmo all the way down to Ahmed Rosario at the number 9 spot. And if you think about it, the Mets, because of the universal DH, they're going to be the one team that benefits the most from it. Yoenis Cespedes, who has not really played in the last couple seasons, he can be your DH. You can DH Robinson Cano. You can DH JD Davis, because he was awful defensively. They have unlimited opportunities. The Mets might benefit most from this universal DH rule, and to be honest, it's most likely going to be a huge success, and I don't think that Mets fans are going to want it to go away in 2021, but that's how it's going to go. All right, guys, here we are, the 3rd best team according to Las Vegas, with a 12-1 odds of winning the World Series. I too agree that the Astros are still really good. Even though they lost Garrett Cole, they picked up a few guys. They have Zach Greinke and Justin Verlander, and they're just, we got to live with it. It's sad, whatever. All right, everyone, the moment that you have been waiting for. Who does Las Vegas have as the World Series favorite and the runner-up? Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have the New York Yankees with a 4-1 odds of winning the World Series. I think that they're just as good as the Dodgers. So with the Yankees, you have Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge and all of these different replacement level guys that can play like superstars on any given day. Now, they're not going to be superstars for every single game, but with Mike Ford and Mike Tauchman and all of these dudes playing like elite players on every like 5th or 6th day, that's all that they need. But then the Dodgers with Mookie Betts and David Price and Cody Bellinger, I give the Dodgers a slight edge, but I'm hoping to God, like, I'm an Indians fan. I don't think that we're going to make the World Series, so I can safely say that if we get a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, I will be okay with that. Two teams that were kind of screwed out of a World Series appearance or championship because of the Astros, they get to meet up one more time at their best, and I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below. What did you make of this video? What did you make of the beginning? What did you make of the ending, the middle? Were there any teams that were ranked too high or too low? Let me know in the comment section down below who is your favorite. I am going with the Dodgers, but again, the Yankees, they could be good. I also really like the Reds. They're a sneaky team. There's something about them I like. The Twins are ridiculous with that lineup. There's just so many good teams in baseball for this season. I'm super excited that baseball's back. Remember to leave a like on this video if you want to see more. Subscribe because we're on the road to 200K before opening day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. If you guys made it to the end of the video, do not forget to leave a like, and also, if you're bored, there are 2 more videos on the screen right now. What are you doing? Click on them. I promise you, they're fun. Do it. Otherwise, you're gonna not pull a diamond for the rest of your life.